So thank you again for agreeing to this interview. I think it's really critical to have the leader of the state's capital included on this discussion. So just yesterday, when the police approved the negotiated pension concessions, you said city officials can now sharpen our focus on the important work to grow our economy, expand opportunity, and cultivate the common good for every Providence family. What are some of the specific steps necessary to do that, and some of your priorities for 2013?
Well, just before focusing, let me just say what I mean more by that, and that is, it's something that I think Secretary Henry Cisneros called quality of place when I was at the ULI Urban Land Institute in Denver recently. That is, you need a good education system. We're working on improving that. We have a new superintendent. We're working on turning around our schools. We are also working on early childhood education, on after-school programs. All of that is important. That's one component. Public safety. If you want to have economic development, you need an environment that people feel is safe. We're working on doing that as well. You have run some stories just recently about some of the work that's being done out of the drug union, some of the work that's being done in terms of the police seizing guns, where we're on pace, even with fewer police officers, to exceed the numbers from before. And so we're working on that and doing everything we can to keep our community safe. Fiscal health, related to what you're talking about, and that is, what is the fiscal health, what is the fiscal stability of the city? And that's where the pensions was very important, because we've talked about it, you wrote about it, Tom, a long time ago. They broke the city back in 1989. You wrote about it in August of last year, I believe. And we've been struggling to fight that consent decree and some other things for years, for almost like 2 decades. We're actually able to eliminate 5% and 6% compounded COLAs. We're able to cap pensions, which is something really key. We are going to cap, the pensions will be capped. No longer will you have someone in retirement making more than the person who's on the job. And that's really important. It's going to help us limit our liability going forward. Change the way that we calculate pensions, require some people to pay longer into pensions, all of those things. So fiscal health is really important. And the fourth piece, that is a kind of a combination, I think that public transit and infrastructure, very important, as a foundation, right? So if you want to have the foundation for growth, education, public safety, fiscal health, and good infrastructure, public transit, then you asked, now I'm getting to your question, right? And then how do you help grow the economy? I believe in Rhode Island, I believe in, certainly in Providence and in Rhode Island, diversity is the key. And there's no silver bullet. I think that's one thing we have to make sure that people understand. There is no silver bullet that fixes our economy and it's going to generate growth. When I say diversity, I'm talking meds and eds to the working waterfront. Okay? So from ideas and science and research to scrap metal. I mean, that's the wide range that I'm talking about. And diversity, growing our economy. So some of the things that we do, one of the things, obviously, I think the meds and eds can be our anchor, right? So, and can be a key part of that. But we should not think that they are going to solve our problem by themselves. You need a diverse economy.
What do you think will be why as an anchor? What?
Oh, because several reasons. One is because we have outstanding institutions of higher education, Brown, an Ivy League school right here, and some of the work that they're doing on brain research, some of the things that you've seen recently where they've been honored on, the Math Institute that they just started. So we have the medical school that they just that they opened up last year as well. That's really, really important. And why I say they can be an anchor, they're here. They're they're not going anywhere. Johnson and Wales, culinary arts, how important that is. We just recognized as one of the best cities for food, actually #1 city I'm not going to be modest, #1 city for food by travel and leisure. Johnson & Wales has a big part to do with that. The restaurants do. RISD, which is recognized by Business Week as the #1 design school in the country. So they can be our anchor in our hospitals and institutions. They can be our anchor and help grow. And one of the things we're going to do, sure.
Or just not to interrupt, but what can you do as mayor personally?
Yep.
We understand what the goals
Absolutely.
are. We understand, the working waterfront, meds and eds. But in 2013,
Yep.
what is Mayor Taveras going to be doing?
Well, one of the things that we're going to do with respect to the meds and the eds is we're going to be examining all of their I zones and to see whether or not by reviewing the I zones and looking at adjustments, that can help them grow and develop as institutions. That's something that's important. Second point, something that we've done, Tom, we have the Innovation Investment Program that is run out of our Economic Development Department. The Innovation Investment Program focuses on young entrepreneurs, right? Because that's part of the brain issue, and that's kind of related to the meds and eds. A lot of what's coming out of meds and eds relates to brain power. Innovation Investment Program is run through Beta Spring, and also there's another organization, I forget the name that it's run through, but basically you have young entrepreneurs that go through the program. At the end they get $50,000 if they help create 2 jobs here, and they have to promise to stay here for a year. Now, some of them are going to succeed, some of them are not, but you're only investing $50,000 and you're keeping some young people here, and you're trying to get to that critical mass. So that's something else that I can do to be helpful. And I think the other thing is, and this relates a little bit to the I-Zone, but generally be a partner with Brown, Johnson & Wales, and RISD, and Providence College, and Rhode Island Hospital, and Hasbro, in the sense of what can we do to help. For example, I know we write a lot of letters. We're very supportive of all their efforts to get NIH dollars in. So is there something more that I can do to be helpful with that? Because
So does that include, like, for instance, holding a roundtable discussion with those people? Could you get them all in one room and say, look, this is what we want to do, let's get it done?
oh, I think
Is that something you could do?
I think we could definitely do that. I've learned, one, we've helped, well, I would like to think I have very good relationships with all of them, given everything that we've gone through together, but they have shown really, to me, a willingness to step up and help the city in our time of crisis. And as we begin to move forward, I need the institutions, and I even said that before, I need the institutions. So that is certainly something that we can do, and I have a very good relationship with the leaders of the institutions. I text with President Paxson. We've talked about some of her concerns and the university's plans, and I want them to know that I'm committed to helping them. I was at Johnson & Wales Board of Trustees. They invited me, Chancellor Bowen did. I got a chance to go and say thank you to them, and to tell them how much I appreciate what they're doing. Rhode Island Hospital, I'm very close to Lifespan as well. I can definitely get them in a room, and part of the idea around the I-Zone is to do some of that. I think it's one thing, you wanted concrete things, one thing that we can do to try to help.
Are there changes to laws to make it more business-friendly, the city, that you are planning on doing for 2013?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, I mean, we, as you know, one of the steps that we've done, I think that have been important, is to try to consolidate a lot of the economic development into one office and have a director of economic development in Jim Bennett. We're also going to revamp PEDP, and you're going to be hearing more about that in the coming year as well. And the other thing is we've got to fix our permitting. We have to fix our permitting. And you've been around a while. I know you've heard it, and it's an issue. But I can tell you that we've taken some steps to do that. But the steps are like steps that should have. I mean, they were.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, we now have software and computers in almost every department. The software is compatible, so they can speak to each other. But that's such a basic step, right? But that's something that without it, we're like light years behind. So that's one of the things that we're doing.
So
is
what
trying
do
to
you
get,
want to do? What steps do you want to take?
Oh, what I want to take is I want to make really have online permitting completely. I want to streamline the process. I want to make it easier, more predictable, and make sure that people can move in a quick, deliberate, quick and deliberate. I mean, I know it sounds like it's can be contradictory, but I'm saying we can be deliberate and move very
So how do you
efficiently.
do that? What's the first step toward doing that?
I think-
Again, get sort of people in the room.
Well, I think
figure out how
I
to-
think the first step on this one, Tom, has been we've identified the problem where we didn't have, like fire permitting wasn't talking to the plans and inspection and standards. That has to change.
Mhm.
That is changing, and we're making sure that it changes. And that was part of getting now the software and computers, because fire was not using.
Yeah. It's
They-
interesting because Gina Raimondo sat in that same chair a couple weeks ago and talked also about sort of standardizing the permitting process, the building permits and things like that across Rhode Island, and talked about Providence in particular being a hardship for so many different contractors who are coming in. Your fees for the city are so much higher than in other places. Why is that? Do you think some sort of standardization of permitting could be possible?
I think that given the size of our state, I think it'd be great to be able to have a system that is standardized across the way. And it's something that, first of all, though, we have to fix our system in the city of Providence without any doubt. And it's something that, as I said, we have a lot more work to do on that.
Is that
But I think
something that could be done in 2013?
Oh, I definitely think we can get our permitting right. Now, doing it across cities and towns,
Yeah, that might take longer.
that might take a little bit longer in terms of
But
having it
Providence
standardized.
itself is a
That
goal
is a
achievable
priority.
in 2013.
That is a priority for us, and it's a very measurable priority. But I also will tell you that we have, and we can provide to you, stories, unsolicited stories of people who have opened businesses and have praised the work that we've done in the city of Providence.
Do you feel the fees are too high?
I
think changing them would
Yeah, I mean,
give you less
with
revenue in your...
with respect to that, I think that in capital cities, I would say across the country, are typically their fees are probably a little bit different than some other cities and towns across the country. So I would have to compare them to everywhere else. But the truth of the matter is, we have done everything that we can to raise revenue in an effective way, and certainly, we try to do the very best that we can under the difficult circumstances we face.
You mentioned the waterfront. For 20, 30 years, people have been talking about that. Waterfront it's an economic tool that just isn't being used very well. What can be done to have Providence's waterfront generating the economy?
Well, I think one of the things that we've done is dealt with the zoning issue to make sure that it's a working waterfront, to make sure that we don't threaten the commercial businesses that exist there, because there are a lot of jobs there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing that can be done, we just did, and that is we just purchased, and I say we, and they're very collective, we just purchased 2 cranes with the help of the federal government, with the help of state EDC, with a private developer. That's going to really help us in terms of promoting the port, in terms of being able to really unload cargo there. The third thing that we have to do is we need to promote. We need to promote not just the port, but we need to promote the whole city and the whole state. And I think that that's something that we can do a better job of. But those are some things that we can do. We've given some stability to the businesses there by the zoning. We've helped expand the work of Provport through the purchase of the cranes. We need to promote better, and we need to also start thinking about something you mentioned, and that is looking at it from a more regional perspective, and particularly working with Quonset as well to see how we can work together to attract more business. If we have a bigger pie, we could each have a bigger slice.
I know we talked about PEDP for the last few months. You and I have discussed that, and there are improvements being put in place. What are some of the things you plan on doing in 2013 to further improve that and get that back running when HUD gives the okay that you can do loans again?
Well, I think for PEDP, what we're first trying to do is to address all the issues that have been pointed out by HUD. The second thing that we have to do is have a clear and transparent process going forward so that people have more faith and confidence that the money is being invested in a good way. The third thing we have to do is that it needs to be part of coordinated strategy in terms of economic development. In other words, if I'm talking about the port and how important that is, PEDP should be focused on what can we do with respect to the port to help that grow. As we look at different issues, it needs to be part of a strategy, not simply, we're giving out here, 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 here. So that's part of that as well. We're trying to create that, and we're going to make sure that the money's tied to job creation, because I think you've seen it. It is supposed to be, but I think you've seen the reports that one of the issues that HUD has had with that.
So you sit on that board, right? As
I
the
do.
chairman?
I am the mayor is the chair.
Do you personally attend those meetings?
I attend a good number of them. I haven't attended all of them, though. But I do attend the meetings.
Is that something you could do simply as mayor? Attend more of those meetings in 2013?
Well, I think that I can not only attend, but I think what I really need to do is set the direction and the priorities for the economic development and make sure that the investments of the PEDP are directly tied to those priorities. And we're doing that right now.
So what are some of those, I know meds and eds you said, and you wanted to get diverse.
Yep.
What are some of those priorities? Is there a specific area?
Well, there are a couple. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about the port and how important that is. One thing that is extremely important that people may not look at as economic development: arts and culture, and tourism, and the organizations that we have across the city that are really based on creativity. And I don't have the exact numbers, but gosh, I think I know it's well over 100 million. We can get you the exact numbers on the amount of money that generates. But that's, once again, going back to the diversity. That's another part of the economy: arts, culture, and tourism. So that's something that I want to invest in. I want to invest in the Innovation Investment Program, so entrepreneurs, okay? So we're using addressing brain.
How many entrepreneurs are you trying to get per year? Is there a specific number that you're trying to target?
We spend $1 million, which is about 20 or so entrepreneurs, and once we work with HUD, we'll establish a number in terms of that. But that's helping to sprout out businesses. The other thing I really want to do is I want to focus on businesses that are here. I'll give you an example. Contract Specialties. They are on Hartford Avenue. They've been around for decades. They do little trinkets and little gifts that you would buy in national parks and Niagara Falls and all across the country. And they went from about 80 to about 40 people during the recession. Now they're up to about 50. And I could be a little bit off on the numbers, but you get the idea. It was like about half, and they're going up again. They have found a niche, and that is made in the USA. And they have started marketing to made in the USA. And there are some people, they won't buy it unless it's made in the USA. And they're now, 40, 50 people working, that's a lot of people. And what can we do? We had an event there to announce our partnership with the SBA to help promote the relationship, Small Business Association. We should be investing in businesses like that and helping them grow right here in the city of Providence.
What do you mean by invest in them?
Well, for example, I know that one of the things that they did was they bought new equipment, and without necessarily our help. Now, So I learned as I went there and I saw that they bought new equipment. Well, I wonder to what degree, if we can help them with equipment and they can produce more, would that allow them to sell more? Now, we'd have to verify that they have a plan and a good business plan and go through the underwriting process and do all of those things. But how can we help that business get back to where it was or grow from where it was?
So
and
why?
if we convince our, if
So a
they're
grant of some sort where they cover the cost of that new equipment or
It
something?
could be a grant, it could be a loan grant, so that you could have a convertible loan to a grant, which I kind of like, which is if you, it's a loan, and depending if certain things are met, you can convert some of it to a grant. I mean, there's some different things that HUD has worked with us to help direct us in terms of things you
Would
can do.
PEDP do that?
I think PEDP should absolutely be part of that. It's about economic development in the city.
So do you see PEDP having more of a role and maybe giving out more loans than in the past to facilitate the priorities in the areas that you want to focus on?
I see PDP as being more strategic in giving out strategic loans and making good investments overall. And by the way, based on the, let's be clear, I mean, based on the requirements of PDP, you know, typically you have had to have been turned down for 2 loans before you go to PEDP. So I understand, you know, we certainly understand that some of these loans are going to be tougher loans because you've already been turned down. However, I still think that we can be more strategic and make better investments in PDP.
So they're definitely going to have a really significant role in what you want to do for 2013.
A very important role, a very important role.
But not necessarily give out more, just be more strategic with them.
I think that we can be more strategic. And I'm not going to focus on the numbers because there could be a project that comes in that just makes so much sense that we may say, okay, we want to invest something on that. But, I mean, I don't know what it would be. I'm just telling you that I don't want to focus simply on the bottom line number, but I want to focus on strategy.
Does the city have a promotional budget where they go out and...
Well, yes and no. We have the Providence Tourism Fund, but it's not exactly part of the city. But we will be promoting the city through the Tourism Fund more in 2013. That's another part of what we're doing.
Is that part of some local chamber, or what is that?
No,
I've never heard of that before.
well, the Tourism Fund gets funding. A lot of the funding comes from the hotel and restaurant tax from the state, and there's funding from there. But they work with the Providence or Warwick Visitors Convention Bureau, or Convention and Visitors Bureau. I always get that one wrong. But one of the things I want to do for 2013, and actually Jim Bennett has already started this as well because I've talked with him about it, is I want a promotional campaign to get people to come to Providence, to come to our restaurants, to come to the skating rink, to come to RISD Museum, to come to the Natural History Museum that's in Roger Williams Park that has a planetarium that most people don't know about, to come to Roger Williams Park Zoo, to enjoy India Point Park, to enjoy all that we have to offer in the city. The Children's Museum, I want people across the state to know we have a great children's museum that you can enjoy. And so I am envisioning that through the Tourism Fund, we're going to focus on that to get more people into the city. And the good thing is if you get them into the city, they're going to spend money in the city. That's good for a lot of the small businesses. I also want to focus, and the Tourism Fund helps us in terms of being number one in terms of food. That wasn't accidental. I mean, that we have help that promotes us. We have an agency in New York called Lou Hammond that's paid for through the Tourism Fund that promotes us across the country.
Do you know how much is in the Tourism Fund? And
I don't have that number, but we can find that out for you. And I do appoint members. I believe the mayor appoints all the members of the Tourism Fund, so I just have to double check. But Paul Brooks is the chair of the Tourism Fund, and they do a lot of good work to help promote tourism in the city. They support Waterfire. Why? Because Waterfire brings people into the city. They support some of the festivals. Why? Because they bring people into the city. They've helped us with the conventions. Why? Obviously, conventions bring more people into the city.
So when you hear people say, I don't come downtown because there's no parking, and that perception that parking is really an issue, and is there things you can do as a city to alleviate that perception, or?
No, I mean, I would say to you that I think people are coming downtown. I think if you ask Barnaby, he would tell you people are coming downtown for Water Fire. I think if you went to First Works Festival, I think you would see that it was absolutely packed. I think that the Johnson & Wales garage, that's going up 700 vehicles for that garage, and that's a new construction project, will be helpful because not only will we have that garage, but we'll also have the additional 700 spaces on the street. But you know, people are coming, and there are always going to be some folks who, you know, sometimes you have to drive around a little bit to find a parking space. But
where's that going up? I wasn't familiar with that.
that's going up on Pine Street, right next to. It's across from the Coliseum and next to PPAC, but I forget the cross street.
Okay, I know where you are.
And that's, and by the way, if you get a chance, Tom, you should look not only at what they're doing, but the design. You're going to say, that's a garage? It's really a really nice design. It's going to be retail on the first floor, brick facade, and most people are going to be surprised that it's a garage. But it's good construction jobs. It helps alleviate some of the parking issues, and it's another investment in our capital city. And we need all the investment we can get.
Are there still a lot of vacant buildings downtown that you see that need, or I know that was an issue you and I discussed earlier this year.
I think that there's the occupancy. I have to look at the occupancy rate to see where we are in terms of commercial. There's one vacant building that's a priority for me, Arnold Building on Washington Street. It's the the thinnest building, you know, the narrowest building that we have in the city and the state, and so.
Is it a priority?
It's a priority because Washington Street, I think, has been revitalized, and even the Blake Building now, you saw it's been painted, it's being worked on inside. You have the old Mercantile Building that's being done. Bob Chase did the garage that's getting, the Biltmore Garage that's getting commercial on the first floor. You know, we have City Hall, we have Washington Trust, is it Washington Trust or Coastway? I forget, but on the left-hand side as well going up. If you take a look at Washington Street, you'll see
that one building is
it
like
just
a
sticks
glaring.
out. Yeah, it sticks out, and it's a priority for us because I think it will help the area. And we have some ideas, and we're working on that too. And there are some others that we have to work on. The Fogarty Building being one, obviously, that especially now with Hasbro coming in. Well, I guess it's right next door, so you guys know it pretty well. So there are some priorities that we have.
So, talk to me a little bit about what you plan on doing with some of the smaller businesses. I know you said you wanted to help them more. Is that in the sense of giving them loans or paying for stuff, or?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, one simple thing that we've started to do is we have a business spotlight in the mayor's weekly newsletter, which goes out to about how many people? About 30,000? About 30,000 people on email, and that continues to grow. And I get compliments on it all the time. And that was simply, as I started going into the neighborhoods, I've had neighborhood days where I visit businesses across the city very quietly and listen to them. I said, boy, we have a lot of businesses here that we should promote. And so that's one thing, to get them out into the city. I want to work on storefront improvements that make it even more attractive. And we have the ability to do that with some federal money that we have received, and we'll be working with economic development to make that a possibility.
Do you know how much that federal money is?
I have seen the number. It's under $1 million, Alisha. I know that, but I don't have the exact number. But we can certainly get that as well. But the storefront improvements, very important. And then, how can we invest in what they need? We did that with Narragansett Creamery, where they needed working capital, and they have a great operation off of Manton Avenue, and we worked with the Rhode Island EDC, and we supported them because it's a local business, it's growing here, it has a lot of jobs there, and if they're already here, they're more likely to stay here versus just attracting people from out of state. So
what is your bigger concern? Attracting more businesses in, or preserving the businesses that you have in the city?
Well, you have to do both. Bigger concern, though, is what you asked. You're right. You said biggest concern. I think we probably need to spend more time than we have on helping the businesses that are here grow. I feel that the emphasis has been looking for that silver bullet.
Right.
And so I'm not saying you have to do both. Okay, so I'm not saying one to the exclusion of the other, but I just feel like we have been looking for that kind of silver bullet. And certainly, I think any community, to be healthy, you have to have both. But boy, we need to focus on some of the people here. And I hate to say this, but let's think about this for 1 second. $75 million. Can you imagine what we could have done with that? Investing in the businesses that are here? We, with the $1 million, the Innovation Investment Program, we helped create about 50 jobs. And not all of them are going to succeed, so we know that. But that's just $1 million. Multiply that out, right? And imagine what we can do. But we need to stop focusing on silver bullet, focusing on what we have here. And by the way, the promotional piece that you said, Tom, the other reason I want to do the promotional piece, we have to lift the self-esteem of this city and this state. We have a great city, a wonderful state, and we need to start reminding people of what they've done. And, one of the things that I've liked, New York State has this, the New York. Have you guys seen that commercial? They have a couple of commercials. The New York, you can Google it or you go on YouTube and see it. And they're starting to promote the new New York. Now, they have Robert De Niro as their voice, so that probably helps a little bit. But it's promoting the state and reminding people of what's going on, celebrating our successes instead of focusing on our failures.
And you plan on doing that with both radio and TV ads?
Well, we'll see what we can do out of the tourism fund, because we're not going to do that out of the city budget.
Yeah.
We'll work on with the tourism fund to see what we can do with respect to that portion. But I don't want anyone to think, given everything and all the sacrifices everyone's making, that that's the case right now. If we can do this from the tourism fund, we can do it. I know that. I don't know. I don't have the exact budget on that, but we can and we will do it.
It may run out pretty quickly if the numbers are kind of low, but. There's an ability to do it and to do it right. I think we'll be able to do it in a way that can do it in Rhode Island and then regionally as well, so we can track some people from southeastern Massachusetts too. So with 60% of your residents being minorities, Jim Vincent talked about there's very few at the top of business and businesses and at the table. Do you see an effort by the city to try to improve that, and how you can do that for 2013?
Being strategic, you should absolutely improve it. And now I don't say that because of my background. I say it because there's a study from the Fed, or it's the Federal Reserve, I believe, that says that minority businesses are growing at a quicker rate, at a faster rate, and they're starting new businesses. And you have reported on it. I've seen it in the journal. So, so we should absolutely. That's another sector of the community. Give you an example. Armando's Meat Market. They're in Pawtucket. You may say, Mayor, you're relying on a meat market. 60 employees, $16 million in sales a year. $16 million in sales. He's expanding on Elmwood Avenue. Bought the old Dunn Ford site, expanding there. He tells me this is going to be bigger than Pawtucket. 60 employees. Well, it's being built out right now. If you go by Elmwood Avenue right before Roger Williams Park, if you're coming from downtown on the right-hand side, it was Dunn Ford, and then it became like it had a used car place. You'll see some construction going on. He's building that out right now. And
Why Providence? Why didn't you
because we are growing. We have grown, even though it's been a little bit a small growth, because we have such a big population here, diverse population, like Alisha was pointing out, and because a lot of us think that Pawtucket's the other side of the world, and will not necessarily travel to Pawtucket to buy the meat. But $16 million a year in sales. That's not
16 or 60?
No, 16. 60 employees. 60 employees, now 16. But even 16, it's not an insignificant amount. But that's why strategic investment and looking at where's the growth coming and how can you help those businesses grow.
When Armando's came forward saying they wanted to do that, Did the city specifically get involved and try to shepherd it through, or
We
do
are
they help
not-
in any way?
We are not involved in terms of direct assistance at this point, other than to say, anything you need, let us know. Permitting, we got to make sure that the permitting moves quickly, and we're working on
Isn't
that.
that already done? If they're already built?
Well, yeah, but even to open, you still have to get through the fire inspection, the code inspection, get your CO, do all that. But what I've done with respect to that is to make sure that they know there's an open door.
Did you personally call and say that?
I've had him in the mayor's office.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just want him to know that whatever he needs, let us know so that we can help.
So similar when Hasbro came down, did you also have those conversations when you see a really big business that...
Hasbro, I went to Pawtucket and visited them there, and I made very clear to them how badly I wanted them in Providence. And I can tell you something off the record I don't want to say on, but so.
How about other places? Have you gone cheerleading for
Absolutely. I've gone all the way down to New Jersey. I woke up at 3 in the morning, got in the truck, went down to meet the AHL owners who were having their conference in New Jersey, and told them that if they come to Providence, they're going to have an AHL All-Star game that will be the standard for the All-Star games in the
that
future.
American Hockey League?
The American Hockey League, and they will be, they're
was
coming to
this?
Providence. I don't know the exact date.
No, I mean, when did you hop in the truck and go?
No, I don't know the exact date that I did it, but we can find out. But it may be early this year. It was this year at some point, and they're coming late January of 2013, and they awarded their All-Star game to us. It's done across the world in terms of broadcast, and right now there's no
that's
hockey
huge.
either.
Yeah.
And once again, getting people in. And that's why I say diversity. Meds and eds, the port, entrepreneurs.
So how did you hear
tourism.
about that's a very...
Yeah.
Two questions on
Yeah.
that. First, how did you hear about it? And two, what are you, driving a pickup truck?
Jim Bennett, he has a little bit of history with hockey. I'm not sure what. No, we had, I was driven down. They drove me
It
down.
wasn't like you got up at 3 o'clock.
I did.
The family pickup truck.
No, I did get up at 3 o'clock, but no, I had help. I had help, and we did that. And I'll go anywhere that I need to go to do that, and that's important to me. And I call people. We work with the tourism, Providence Tourism, not Providence Tourism, but also the Providence Warwick Visitors Convention Bureau. We work with them, so I will call people who are looking to do events here. I did it with Netroots Nation. I got on the phone, called the organizers. Senator Whitehouse was involved too. It wasn't just me, but I got on the phone, called the organizers, told them we wanted them here, and that is one time that I definitely make sure that they know that it's the mayor who's calling, and the mayor would love to have you here.
Do you see other mayors? I know you're friends with Mayor Abadij and Mayor Fung. Do you see other mayors, or do you think you're going above and beyond, or with this reaching out and traveling to New Jersey and personal phone calls?
Oh, I think that we're all doing everything that we can, and we recognize the different ways to attract people to our city. Mayor Abadij and Mayor Fung, tremendously hard workers. I know Mayor Fung really personally. Tremendously hard workers, and they do everything they can.
So you think that's like a standard that should be there?
Well,
as a mayor?
it's my standard, that's for sure, and I'll do whatever I can. And as you guys know, actually I shouldn't tell them this, David, but I do give out my cell phone when conventions come into town and when I greet them. So I don't want to say, yeah, they'll be at the next one, huh? And the reason I do it is because I want to make sure that if they have any problem, they let me know, and that they know how important it is that, to me, that they have a great time and that they go home bragging about Providence.
Yeah.
And that's worked really well. The Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority came, and let me tell you, they not only did they call me, they texted me. I was not off the stage, and I was getting phone calls. But it's that little extra thing, and I like to joke. I said, I want to see which other mayor does that, and they say, Mayor Bloomberg gives out his home number. I said, he's a billionaire. He can do that stuff. But those little things that make people feel special and make people want to come back to our city,
Do you have scouts or something that look for these things? Or there? I mean, I know you said Jim had the hockey background and with.
We have the Convention and Visitors Bureau. If you haven't talked with Martha Sheridan and her folks, you should. They do a lot of work. They really do. And by the way, that's something that should be done not just for the city but for the state. Because with Newport, with our beaches, with the beautiful job that Colin Kane did down with the new resort there, and I forget, Ocean House. There's so much that we have here. We need to do a better job of promoting it. So they work and they target certain sizes of conventions, and they a lot of times will come to me and say, Mayor, can you make this call? Can you do this? Can you do that? Sometimes people will come in and I will meet with them. With the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, I went on a bus tour with them, and then I followed up with a personal phone call to tell them how much we wanted them to come here. We had a couple thousand of them here, and they had a blast. And I can tell you, I've talked to at least one since then, and she says she has traveled back to Providence since then and plan on doing that.
So what role do you think, I'm just changing topics just a little, what role do you think getting families into housing and the foreclosure crisis that the city and the state is feeling, what role do you think that has in some of your economic priorities?
It's part of the quality of space. And that is, or quality of place is probably better than space, quality of place. You need to have good housing for the workforce, and we should also use it as an opportunity to help develop the workforce, because if you're rehabbing housing, that creates jobs, and that's something that's important for us in the city. And you need good housing if you want kids to get a good education. It's hard to do your homework if you don't have a place to stay. So that's a big part of what we have to do, and it also means safer communities. If you have owner-occupied housing across our city, we're going to have a safer city. You are. It's a function of people, how they take care of their homes. And what they do. So it's all related to the quality of place.
I know with the Thayer Street project with Gilbane, one of the sticking points for negotiations with them is having contractors who have a mentoring program. And I know you just said that. Is that something that when you start to think about tax stabilization agreements, or is that something that you guys want to make it standard, mandatory?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we're going to invest in terms of giving someone a tax stabilization, we have to make sure that as a city, not only are we getting the development, but something more from that. The whole idea of the apprenticeship, and Hasbro has done it. If you haven't had a chance, I mean, they're almost done, so I don't know if they're complete now, but you walk through Hasbro, it looks like the city of Providence when you look at the people working there. And that's because we had the apprenticeship requirement, and they worked with Building Futures, which is part.
They did the women's and the minority.
And so you have this diversity. And not only are we going to have an awesome company being a huge anchor in our downtown, but we also help develop some of the workforce, which is important, and young people learning construction jobs. So now as they do their garage over here, and they're spending millions of dollars to do their garage, and they're also spending, Johnson & Wales is also spending money for the physician assistant program in terms of doing that as well. These folks who are learning the skills, they have an opportunity to work as well. We need white-collar and blue-collar jobs, diversity. That's what I'm talking about. You can't just focus on the meds and eds without focusing on blue-collar as well.
Let me ask you, if you don't mind, one sort of tangential question, but it is still related. One of the benefits everyone seemed to agree on last year, the passage of the pension overhaul bill, was that it injected some certainty into the economic equation for businesses coming into Rhode Island. You know, it gave them more of a sort of a ground that wasn't shaking so much. You know, less uncertainty. So I must say I was a little surprised when you came out in favor of sort of negotiating a settlement to the lawsuits now, as opposed to letting let the courts decide? Because doesn't that inject some of that uncertainty again that may ward off some concern on the part of businesses? Until
the court case is decided, there is no certainty. So let's be clear. The Supreme Court of the United States, Tom, decides cases 5-4 all the time. You can look at the President's health care plan for the most recent big 5-4 decision that came down to one person. Mm-hmm. So while certainty is important, until that court case is done, there is no certainty. What I advocate is you can defend the lawsuit, and you should do so vigorously. I'm a litigator. That's what I've done all my life. But you should never be afraid to negotiate. And you should, if you're going to negotiate from a position of strength. Negotiate when you have leverage. Do not wait until you have no leverage to negotiate, because it's going to be a lot more difficult. What's Plan B if the court strikes down this pension, the pension reform? What's Plan B? No one has told you what Plan B is.
Well, isn't Plan B at that point negotiated?
and boy, I'm sure that we're going to get a very good deal at that point.
So are you still in favor of the overhaul?
Oh, I think that the overhaul is extremely important.
It's saved Providence a lot of money.
Well, but here's the thing, okay? We had an ordinance passed that saved us about $22 million. We negotiated a deal that saved us $18.5 million. There's still a gap. It's about 89% of what we wanted. But we eliminated the uncertainty of going to court, having a judge rule against us, losing, and then being in a situation that's a lot more difficult.
Well, some might argue that your chances of winning were probably less.
Oh, well, you know what? I think that it's a tremendous
versus contract.
Oh, I think that some should focus on the tremendous risk that is involved in litigation. I have enough experience in litigation to know that nothing is a slam dunk case. Nothing is a slam. There's no such thing as a slam dunk case. And if you're gonna engage in negotiations, do so from a position of strength. And you always have the option of saying those famous words, "I'll see you in court."
Mm-hmm. So you don't think by raising this issue of negotiating now, that economically, that once again reintroduces some uncertainty into Rhode Island?
No, I don't. And I just want to tell you, and you can speak with lawyers and other folks. This is common practice in federal court. Before you even get to discovery, many times you have to sit down at a settlement conference. Mm-hmm. They require it. And by the way, it's pretty much all cases. Okay, and I mean, I can certainly send over to you the local rule, and also it's based on a federal law that requires an alternate dispute resolution mechanism for all federal courts. This is not a radical idea. This is actually the way that most litigation proceeds. You know that most litigation, over 90%, I don't remember the exact number, but it's over 90%, ends up being settled. So this is not a radical, thought at all. It's actually a pragmatic thought. So
the treasurer, of course, would disagree with you and say that, after all these months of coming up with a plan, to water it down in any way is not as good a plan.
Well, let me just say this. I've learned something running the city of Providence. There's more than one way to accomplish your goals. And that's something that I have learned, and I believe that there is more than one way to accomplish your goal. She will never know unless she sits down, unless she thinks that her way is the only way. And that's never been my approach, and certainly not as mayor, and I think that's what has allowed us to do what we've done, and that is bring people together, find solutions, and by the way, certainly not perfect, but find solutions and move forward together. So, that's the way that I would point that out.
You've had to deal with a lot of fiscal problems that you inherited in the first 2 years of your office. Do you feel that has slowed your economic progress down, or that you had to put so much focus on financial?
I think in general, we need to accelerate job growth. So I don't want anyone to think that I am satisfied with the job growth that we've had. But part of that is doing exactly what we've done. Who would have invested in the city of Providence if we had, God forbid, ended up in Chapter 9? And I can tell you that when Judge Flanders made those comments, we had several investors and attorneys representing investors reach out to my administration because they got skittish. And we had to convince them that the investment would be a good investment. So this is part of making it grow. I mean, we have actually seen there are more people employed now than when I took office. Our labor force has grown a little bit as well. So at the actual labor force, so it's not, not more people are working. The labor force has also grown. So we're seeing that, but we have to accelerate it because our unemployment in the city and in the state is too high. So we need to do everything we can to do that. We're beginning to see that in terms of more and more people getting employed and the unemployed number going down, but not fast enough. And I think all the things that we're doing help provide the foundation for us to go forward. Without it, I don't see how you can really promote economic development.
Do you want some more?
If you have some, that'd be great, actually. Thank you.
How many other questions you have, Alisha?
Not too many. I don't think I really have any major ones.
Mayor, while I have you here, I should probably ask you, do you see Treasurer Raimondo as a gubernatorial opponent of yours?
I try not to focus too far into the future because if you do, you lose focus on what you have to do. And I, as a mayor of a city, I don't have the ability to focus. I don't have the luxury of, just focusing on politics. I have to run a city. So that's what, Tom, the day I stop focusing so much there, you lose focus on what you have in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The fridge is locked.
That's all right.
So
Well, let's finish up, and we'll. Because I've actually got to go in a little bit, so I'm actually supposed to go.
I'm set.
You good?
I'm good.
All right. I think we have everything we need.
The one other thing I would tell you that we didn't talk a little bit about, the infrastructure is important, and the road bonds that we have, $40 million is going to allow us to pave 60 miles of roads, will help us, one, in terms of getting some people back to work as well, and two, the infrastructure in our city needs to be improved, and in our state as well. And that's another key component, and we need to focus on that in a broader way.
Bonds, how much were those again?
$40 million. $40 million. And let me just make sure from my perspective here.
So you're going to get back to me on those numbers, such as the entrepreneurs, how many you plan on doing. I know you said it's been $1 million that you did in previous years. Is that what it is?
It was $1 million. We were approved for $1 million.
Every year?
Well, no, the first year.
Coming.
But right now, with the review by HUD, we're working with them to determine the best way to move forward and make sure that we're all, yeah, exactly. But I think it's something, it's the type of thing, strategic investments, and we need to think more like that and stop searching for that silver bullet.
So that started this year?
I think it started last fiscal year into this year, so 2011, 2012.
And then you're going to get the numbers on the tourism.
Yeah,
fund.
no, absolutely. David, we got to get those numbers of tourism fund.
He's
Good?
on it.
Good.
All right, so we all set?
I think so.
Thank you so much.